Hello again. Well, yesterday I was talking about my days at the Knightsbridge Sporting Club, and while I was working there, something very unusual happened at home. I was at home during the day, and my father was working during the day, so I didn't see him very much. And while I was having breakfast, which was about 12 o'clock in the afternoon, I got a phone call. And at the other end of the call was a lady who asked for Chris. Chris is my father's first name. And I said, he's not here, he's at work. Can I help you? And she said, are you Bruce? And I said, yeah, I am Bruce. And she said, I'm your new mother. So I was a bit taken aback, and I didn't really believe her. I thought it was a little bit of a joke. And I kind of went along with it. I said, how are you? Nice to speak to you. What's your name? And she said, my name is Vera. I said, oh, okay. So why did my father not tell me he was getting married? When did this happen? She said, this was 3 days ago. I said, oh, kind of dawning on me that something didn't seem quite right. So I said, well, why wouldn't my father tell you that we were getting married? Or you were getting married, rather. And she said, well, he was scared to tell you. I said, I don't know why he would be scared to tell me. I'd be very happy for him if he was getting married. And she said, well, I have to tell you also, I'm younger than you. And I'd kind of gathered that by the way she was speaking. So I said, well, why aren't you living here if you're married? And she said, well, I will be. She said, once we know you're okay about it, and I have to give up my flat in Paddington. Okay, I said, well, I'm okay about it. Speak to my dad when he comes home tonight and find out what's going on. But he doesn't have to ask me to get married or live with someone. And she said, well, he wants your approval. And I said, well, you got my approval. It doesn't matter whether you're younger than me. I'm not bothered with that. And then she said, well, perhaps you should get to know me first. And I said, well, how am I going to do that? She said, well, I know you drive. I said, yeah, I drive. She said, well, I'm learning to drive. How about, could you give me a driving lesson? And I said, well, sure, I could do. She said, I've got a car. And I'm pretty sure she said she had a Cortina. And I said, okay, well, I'll give you a lesson. I'm free during the day. Are you free? Do you work? And she said, I work at night. I said, well, what do you do? She said, I'm an exotic dancer. So I got a bit worried. Exotic, erotic, exotic. Okay, I said, well, what club do you work in? And then she came up with, and I remember, she said, it was like Cucaracha Club. And that sounded very suspicious because that's part of a song I seem to remember. So she said, but you could, my apartment's in Paddington, if you could meet me there and we could go for a drive. So I said, okay, I'll come out in the afternoon. So I made an appointment, I made a date that we could come up so I could then go straight off to work afterwards. And I thought Paddington's quite a nice place. It can't be too bad, so I look forward to the meeting the next day. I didn't see my father before. I went to work, he came home, I didn't tackle him, and the next day I went to meet Vera. And I'll tell you about that story tomorrow. So thank you for listening. See you then.